So then lads, back with another video. Today we're just going to be ranking every recent Battlefield game from 4 to 2042. Quick disclaimer, I literally got my EA Play subscription today, which is how I first played all of these games apart from 1 and 5. So I won't be experienced at them. Also, don't expect more content on Hardline and 4 in the future, because I only got a month of the subscription with CSGO crate money. But I will be getting 2042 for my birthday this month, so I expect a review. So yeah, let's get into this.
So number 5 on this list is the newest one, 2042. This was actually the first BF game that launched since I became a fan of the series. Oh, I remember when that trailer dropped. I thought it was going to be so good. All the YouTubers that checked out the beta, they said that it was a broken piece of shit. I was like, nah, well, it's probably not a broken piece of shit. I actually miss being that naive. It's a broken piece of shit. It's just like the bugs, it's just the start of it. You see general clipping, things not taking damage, and the AI in the tutorial starter bit is just awful. For the whole section is just awful. It goes on for way too long, and it's way too hard for a tutorial. Now, behind all the bugs, the glitches, it's just the texturing issues, the clipping errors, which there's a lot of, it's actually a decent game. I'm just kidding, it fucking sucks. So what they did, they removed a bunch of good features that were in all the previous games, and they also decided to add a bunch of bent features no one cares about. Let me just list a few of them. So you can change your loadout by selecting different attachments for guns in game, but you can only do that in matches. You literally can't do it in the menu screen. They've removed naval combat entirely, apart from the hovercraft, which is just shit to play as and against, not overpowered or underpowered, just disappointing. And then let's think, when you're downed, and there won't be an icon that tells you where the nearby medic is. So you just have to guess if that next person's a medic or not, because there's no way of knowing. You cannot tell the difference between enemy players and your own. It just doesn't let you do that for some reason. Surely there should be a difference in appearance for what team you're on, but nah. And when you're a certain distance away from an objective, it counts the distance in tens of meters instead of meters, and I don't get why it does that. Like, the rowing machine I have at home, it counts at tens of meters in the minimum, whereas all the ones at the gym I use, that counts in meters, and they always just feel faster and better. And then, let's think, there are no AA guns throughout the entire game. You can now call in vehicles, but only when your team has those vehicles. That's a pretty useless function. They had a lot of emphasis on the takedown, so much that instead of just picking a melee weapon, and that melee weapon also changes the takedown, instead you pick a takedown, and that takedown also changes the melee weapon. That'd be good if the takedowns weren't all fucking awful. It doesn't even change based on what angle you're at, what position you attack from, what position they're in, like it did in all some of the more recent games. And then the classes, pretty much useless, really. Instead of just having regular classes, there's medic type, assault type, sniper type, like engineer type. Oh yeah, they got rid of support, replaced with engineer. The classes are basically made useless by the specialists and the fact that you can basically edit any class to be anything. Should we talk about the specialists? Yeah, let's talk about the specialists. Fuck the specialists. So instead of the normal system where you could customize a soldier that's different classes, you now have specialists which are different characters, and they're just bad to have in general. Why can't you have it so you can choose an ability? Because they each only come with one ability, by the way. That's the only thing they have. I think it was mainly just for marketing, really, because of how much of a success Apex Legends were. Imagine if they hadn't done specialists and how much better the game would be. Now, the voice lines are just awful, really. They're all cringe. When you're bleeding out and you try to die, they just shout things like, no medic. which is bullshit. Oh yeah, speaking of bleeding out, it goes into first person and you can crawl away, which is just like, why? Shouldn't do that. It's got a lot of battle royale features for something that doesn't even have a battle royale. So overall, it's an unfinished mess, and they should really try and unchange some of the things that they changed. I don't know if that's the right word. And that was just me playing Conquest, by the way. I haven't even checked out Hazard Zone or Portal. So yeah, that was 2042. Right, so next on our list at number 4, we have Hardline. That's almost the oldest out of all these ones. It was really hated at launch. The thing is, though, it's afflicted with prequel trilogy syndrome, where people really hate it when it launched, but then when like a later installation released that people hated even more, everyone thought it wasn't too bad. The biggest feature about this game is that it was developed by a different studio that wasn't DICE. Also, it flips the classic formula on its head. But instead of having like military and other military, you have cops and robbers. What I like about this is that it just generally has a less serious tone. You know, it's campy, it's funny without trying too hard. The dialogue in general, it's just less professional, and they didn't try to be serious with the graphics either. I mean, speaking of graphics, graphics is a bit of a complaint. Like it's just kind of bad, even for a game released in 2015. I mean, 4 had better graphics, and that was released, what, 2 years before? So a few complaints I have about it are the class systems. Okay, the pre-BF1 classes pretty bad in general because it combines Medic Assault into one class and then splits its support into 2, which I really don't like. The menu screen. Why is there no fucking menu screen? Okay, like, who thought putting a website instead of a menu screen was a good idea? It's not a good idea. Let's think. The level design could work with some improvements, like on Bank Job. If the criminals take over all 3 sectors, the cops are basically just pinned in their subway spawn point. And the Levolution, it has fuck all in terms of Levolution. You can barely do anything with destroying the map. And guns, you don't really start out with many guns, but the buying system really fixed that. Oh yeah, and the campaign, fuck the campaign. That's all the complaints, by the way. Although, what's good about it? I already mentioned the tone, money system. Okay, money system good. You can now buy equipment, classes, instead of spending ages to lot them with the money you earn. I think that's a really nice touch and should have been implemented more in the series. Game modes, fuck yeah. This is like the best game modes out of any game in the series. You got things like, I forgot all the names, like the one where you grab the money bundles for evidence, that's really good. Hotwire, yeah. Things that were really only unique to the gameplay of this specific game. Customization was fairly good actually, with like your gun bench, you can choose weapon camos and character camos, although like with character, you change the colour of your character's clothes, but not them themselves. That's a bit weird. The movement, that could really be improved upon. I don't like the movement, forgot to mention that. It has a lot of vehicles, which is really good. Like, instead of in like some games where you just have to wait ages for a vehicle to appear, they're just always available. You can grab some of the vehicles, which range from like cars, you can have armored trucks, boats, helicopters. It's all fairly good. Yeah, I think that's most of the things I got there out the way. Right, so that was Hardline. Number 3 on our list is actually the one that most people consider to be the best in the series, which is Battlefield 4. This one's the oldest out of all the selection by far, coming out in, what, 2013. So most of the servers were pretty dead, but I did find a few. It's the gameplay, it's pretty basic Battlefield fun, really. I guess it must have set the standard for the games further in the series, because you can really see its influence. The gameplay, pretty solid if you ask me. The graphics still holds up to this day. I really like the display of everything being kind of TV screeny. The gunplay, pretty good. The sniping was actually more powerful than in most BF games. Like, I generally suck at sniping, but like, I got quite a few kill streaks in literally my first ever match of this game. The maps, they could do with being bigger in size. I honestly found them to be pretty small for what the gameplay was. And like, I feel the lack of player counts kind of stopped me from enjoying the game, because like, I look everywhere and there's not a single fucking player to be seen, just because the servers are pretty empty. But yeah, I'm sure if there was more players, it would get better. Vehicles, that's where it really shines. I love the vehicles, like the snowmobile, the boats, the jet ski, the tanks, the jeeps, the quad bikes. Not the helicopter, because I don't know how to use that. The vehicles are good, apart from the fact that you can't go into chase cam, which is like a big thing. Like every Battlefield game should have. The movement is obviously not as advanced compared to the more recent ones. The campaign I've not actually played yet. It seems really similar to the Modern Warfare Remastered campaign, which is like the best shooter campaign outside of Half-Life. But I can see why people like it, because of the nostalgia factor and all that. I didn't find it as good as people hyped it up to be. Levolution, though, God, that was so good. Like, you can really see the impact, the destruction from guns and explosives. The teams, I'll admit, the voice acting, it was kind of cringy, to be honest. Like, the US announcer just sounded like a skinny kid. I've never played on the Chinese team, but Russian announcer sounded like an American doing an impression of a Russian. But I guess the team, like the player callouts, were alright, I guess. Sometimes the objectives could be wrongly placed. I just feel like sometimes they're too close or too far from each other. Other than that, it's a pretty solid game, I guess. But yeah, and atmosphere was alright. Yeah, so that was Battlefield 4. Number 2 on our list is my first and the community's worst, Battlefield 5. Yeah, this was my first Battlefield game, so maybe I have a soft spot for it. But I think it's a pretty good game no matter what people say about it. But let's address the complaints first. Historically inaccurate everything, really. The trailer, the reveal trailer, just makes me want to vomit. Like, everything about that trailer just hurts. In terms of the skins, well, all the Battlefield games that came before it kind of lacked in character customization, so they decided to add more with 5, which was good, but they kind of went overboard and just added too many clothing, I guess. Like, there's so many. If you go into the store, the menu, you have like hundreds of tops, hats, trousers, characters for each faction. You can play as women in the factions that didn't have women, which is ironic because they didn't add the USSR, a faction that actually let women fight in World War II. They didn't add a lot of factions actually, like China, France, Italy. Should have been in the game, but I guess they didn't have time to add all the retarded skins that they were thinking of adding. Another complaint, it's the campaign. Yeah, most of the war stories were kind of bad, apart from The Last Tiger, which was a masterpiece. And vehicle availability, like, vehicles spawning is just so scarce in this game. Like, you have to wait forever to get a vehicle on the spawn point, like, or on any objective, really. But I don't even think vehicles can spawn on objectives. Like, most times you get a tank or a plane or shit, it'll just be lying around the map. And then, like, because the vehicles also have their own kind of class, but like, because of how much weapon customization there is, the vehicle class seems kind of shit. Speaking of weapon customization, that was really good in this game. You can choose loads of different weapon camos for various parts of your guns. There's specializations, which can control how each gun's act. Each class's weapon systems were handled perfectly. In terms of equipment, however, it lacked a bit. There wasn't much equipment in general, and most of it was universal, wasn't class specific. Although grenades, that was fairly good. But yeah, just a little more would have really helped. Let's see. The character customization, as I mentioned before, when you do it realistically, that's actually quite good. I've made most of my characters look historically accurate, and that just makes the gameplay feel better in general. Yeah, the vehicles, as rare as they are, they're great to control, they're great to play. They have weapons, they're easily taken down. You can see, like, how mainly the assault class and sometimes support is really geared towards taking down vehicles. Even small things like the jeeps that are lying around the map are really useful, and teamwork is heavily emphasized in this game since you don't regen health, so you have to rely on medics to throw health at you, or you can just get the supply stations, which are also in this game. And only these assault class can take down vehicles, as I mentioned before. Then there's only the sniper being able to spot enemies. That's a feature I don't actually like. I much preferred it when all classes could spot enemies. Although it's better than Battlefield 2042 when you can't even spot vehicles. So yeah, sometimes the emphasis on teamwork can be too hard. There wasn't really many complaints to make. Other than that, building, that's a new feature they added. You can build embankments, which is really cool. You can dig out trenches, build up sandbag walls, build vehicle supply stations. That was a neat feature. The movement is spot on, to be honest. You can vault, slide, jump, duck, swim, all the nice things. Although when you swim and get out your secondary weapon, you can't aim down the sights with it. But that's not much of a complaint. There is a pretty big lack of naval combat, though. I mean, it's better than Battlefield 2042 again, because they actually have boats and not just a hovercraft. But yeah, there could be some improvement there. And DLCs, yeah, I have War in the Pacific. That was really good. It's such a shame that we didn't get to see an Eastern Front DLC. That would have been really good. You know, we could have got like Russia, China, or even Poland. No, I doubt they would add that. So yeah, pretty underrated game to be honest, and that was Battlefield 5. So the number one spot on our lists, conveniently named, goes to Battlefield 1. When I first got this game, I didn't think it was that good. That's because I was playing on Team Deathmatch when I thought it was Conquest. After playing on Conquest, I originally thought it wasn't as good as 5, but it grew on me faster than mold grows on that one fucking lemon you leave at the bottom of the fruit bowl. Its strongest point is the atmosphere, definitely. The game is beautiful. Each soundtrack is an absolute banger every time you go into the menu screen winning a match. The general gameplay, you know, you can see things like explosions, fire, and the map art. It's just really nice to look at. Like the maps themselves, I don't like the map design. They could do a better layout, but the art is really nice. It really shows like the war-torn, brutal theme of a World War One setting, which is pretty unique. You honestly don't see many games set in World War One, and it really captured it quite nicely. I mean, they included some things not many people talk about, like the Russian Civil War and you know the Ottomans holding Suez Canal. I mean, when we did World War One in school in history class, they just barely brushed over anything in the east. I mean, they even told us that the Germans were holding the Suez Canal, which isn't true. They included pretty much everything, although they kind of missed out the African front, where like a lot of colonial soldiers fought each other all across Africa. But yeah, apart from that, it's pretty inclusive in the conflict. In terms of gunplay, I mean, I don't like the fact that each class has barely any guns and equipment unlocked for them. Like, there are a lot of grenades and melees, but the guns and equipment, you know, you have to do a lot of grinding just to get just one. But the guns themselves, they play out fairly well. A lot of people didn't really like that because of how far in the past the game was set, and these people, they were just used to a modern setting. But, you know, the fact that I played it before I played any other modern Battlefield game makes me quite like it. The bayonet charges and the melee, they all feel so good to do. Shooting people from a distance, you know, you get the nice ping sound, the headshots with the snipers. Each class is fairly well balanced out, I'd say, although medic has a bit of an edge sometimes, since like you can't revive squad mates like in Battlefield 5. But yeah, it's pretty well balanced apart from that. In terms of the maps, now I'm mainly talking about base game here. Like when I got it free off Prime Gaming, it didn't have the DLCs, and I only just got them with EA Play. Sometimes it gave me a glitch that let me play them when I didn't have them. But the few DLC maps I've played have been pretty disappointing, to be honest. Like, not in terms of map art, but in terms of just design and layout. haven't really been as good as the base game maps. A lot of the base game maps are pretty solid, actually. You know, they mix the classic Battlefield map formula with something new for the World War One setting. Character customization. Well, you can get some skins for guns, but in terms of modifying them, what I don't like is, like, you can do so many specific things apart from attachments. Like, sure, you can change the scopes and add bayonets, but, like, there's really nothing attachments you can do. Like, you can control the recoil direction, the zoom it has, the type of crosshair, but just no no attachments, which just, I don't know why it does that. In terms of character customization for, like, appearance, there's a few skins for guns and tanks and planes and stuff. Absolutely none for the player, which kind of sucks, really. I mean, it breaks the immersion when, like, a quarter of your team looks the same as you. I mean, there's only a select number of player models for, like, the main 4 classes, then plus the tanker and get cavalry and pilot for each faction. It was kind of a problem at launch because, like, there was accusations that it was blackwashing history with things like the German scout being black, historically inaccurate, just SJW propaganda. And that could have been fixed with character customization. The character models were pretty solid, I guess, apart from the fact that heavy players have, like, fucking medieval armor, shouldn't do that. The elite classes, really good, well balanced. I think that's all I have to say, really. So yeah, that was Battlefield 1.
So yeah, that was it. Now, I know I only do this for a laugh, but like, that took me a really long time to record, and it'll probably take me longer to edit, so it'd be nice if you liked, subscribed, watched my other videos, or even just commented if you liked it. I'd rather this video made at least one person's day than hit a million views. So then, lads, that's the end.